Hello, and welcome to the Abundology podcast. I'm here today with Susan Eckert, who is a feminine empowerment and confidence coach, the SoulPurpose Connector, founder of the Transformation Space in New York, and creator of the H.E.R method, which is a holistic approach to rapid transformation, which is all super cool stuff. And today we're talking about angel numbers. So, yay! So, Susan, this one of the things that my clients and listeners talk about all the time are seeing numbers out there that are repetitive, that we see over and over. And so I'm excited to talk to you about this today because there's so much focus on this. I think people are kind of waking up. And this is one of the ways that our angels and the universe get in touch with us and give us signs are through numbers. So, yeah. So, can you tell me a little bit how you got started in the angel number business, I guess?
Yeah, well, thank you first. Thank you for having me, Renee. And I was so excited that you were excited about talking about angel numbers because you're right. There is an awakening going on, and we're all starting to realize that we are light bodies having a human experience, right? And so some of us are receiving messages, receiving downloads, getting information, reconnecting with intuition and our guides, right? To help guide us through this transition that's happening. And the thing is, like, a lot of people see 1111, which is an awakening call. Somebody told me it's a clarion call from the Archangel Metatron. And I believe it because he has been a guide in my life. So that's how I got started. I kept seeing 1111.
Yeah. And then you just wondered, what does this 1111 mean?
Exactly. So, the universe, I'm sorry, there's a huge truck passing by. The universe speaks in numbers, right? That's how the universe speaks. And it's only when we heed the call and we say, okay, let me go inside, let me connect with my intuition. What does this mean? That we start to get the deeper meaning behind the numbers, behind the messages, right? So when we study numerology, we realize that, each number has a variety of meanings and associations with that number. Like 1 could be for new beginnings, fresh starts, right? 0 is going into the void, things like that. But what I find is that a lot of people who see these numbers, they get confused because if you look up a number like 111, you're going to see a million different definitions for what it means. But what does it mean for you is the question, right?
Right.
What do you do when you see 111? And so this is the key thing, like, helping people understand, like, there's a message behind it. Usually I ask people, like, what do you do when you see a number? And they say, well, I just say, okay, my guides are there and they're trying to get my attention. So, okay, hello. Right? That's one thing. But at the same time, there's also a meaning beneath it. And so connecting with our intuition will give us that meaning.
So what are some of the ways that somebody could connect to the numbers? Let's just say you say 1, 2, 3, 4 often. That's one for me that comes up often. And how do you get to the meaning for you, the intuitive meaning?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things that I did when I kept seeing the different numbers, and there was definitely a pattern that was happening in my life. Like, for a period of time, I was seeing 222s and 444s, right?
Yes.
And I kept seeing 1010. And I'm like, okay, but what does it mean? So what I literally did was I started studying all the individual numbers. What are all the possibilities for this number, this number, this number? And then I would go into meditation and I would connect with my guides and say, okay, when I see this, what are the possible meanings for it? And through a download, I was able to channel all this information. And then I actually have an oracle deck that I'm creating where people could intuitively pull the right sequence of numbers that they could interpret it. But without the deck, you can do this on your own. Figure out, like, if you're seeing 111, what does it stand for? And then look at all the definitions and connect with your intuition. Where is the message in this for me, for this moment in time? Because as I was testing this out with other people, I was asking them, okay, tell me what the number is. Tell me what the situation is. What was happening when you saw the number, and what was the thought that you had? With that level of detail, they were then able to say, oh my gosh, this is the meaning behind that number when I gave them the possibilities. Do you see how it's a little bit different? It helps us dive deeper. It's yes, the angels are trying to speak with us, but what are they saying is the key. So figuring that out, you could do a little research on your part, or when my oracle deck comes out, get that.
Yes. Well, when your deck comes out, we'll have you come back and talk a little bit more in depth about it too. That would be lovely. So
Sounds great.
I know that there's so many books out there. Doreen Virtue has her angel numbers books, and then you can Google, also any of the numbers. And they're
Kyle Gray also has
Kyle
one.
Gray.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're right. They're all so different, the interpretations. And it's these individual people's interpretations. Maybe they had downloads from, angels or their guides, the universe, whatever, but it's their interpretation.
Yeah. And it's also a broad, if you think of it like the umbrella, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of us know number 1 stands for new beginnings, right?
Right.
But it also stands for other things. But what does it mean for you in the moment that you see that number? That level of specificity is the difference between that umbrella statement.
Yeah. New beginning.
It's a new beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you pair it up, especially when you pair it up with other numbers, and sometimes people see numbers repetitively that aren't in like talked about a lot, right? Like you could see 997 all the time. What does that mean? Right. And nothing, you could probably look it up and you're probably not going to find a solution to that. But
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's almost like I call it decoding the angel signs, the angel numbers.
Yes. So then do you come up with your own? So I have a client that sees 717 all the time. Yeah. And interesting, we just had an appointment on 717 because that was one of our numbers. So of course we did. So do you go into a meditation, go to the mat, do some breathing, get yourself in that spot, and then kind of communicate with your guides in the universe to like, help me out with the interpretation of this number?
Yeah, and I will tell you that could work, right? So if you're seeing patterns, and let me stress this, it's patterns. If you keep seeing 717 over and over and over, then okay, there is something they're trying to communicate.
Right.
Then going into a meditation and asking the guides, what are you do I need to know right now? What are you trying to communicate to me? Help me understand. If you're the type of person who connects with your intuition regularly, whether through visuals or claircognizance, where you just have a knowing feeling, the information will be given to you. But you can, of course, help yourself with understanding in general, what does the 7 tend to stand for? What does the 1 tend to stand for? And then putting it all together in a way that you're like, when you have that knowing feeling. I'm reading Scott Schute's book right now. It's called The Full Body Yes.
Oh,
and when
I
you
like
have that, it's a great book. When you have that full body yes, where you're just like, oh yes, this is it, right?
Yes.
That's when okay, so this is the message. This is what they're trying to tell me. Because like there have been times when, for a while I kept seeing 10, 10, 10, 10. That's new beginnings. Go into the void for me. That's what it was like. You're recreating, you're building something fresh, but spend time in the void so that you can create, like be in the womb. Allow something to start to build fresh, and then go out and launch this new beginning. Then I did that, and then it was like I kept seeing 4, 4, 4s. So they were like kicking me in the butt. Okay, now time to take action.
Get out there.
All right, enough daydreaming. Go out and put it into action. Do. So, once you start to understand, okay, this is what they're trying to say, and this is how they're guiding me forward, it just all makes sense. Like I have to say, when I was testing this out, it was 100% accurate. People were getting the right messages for that particular moment in time. And we can all do this. We just need to reconnect with our own intuition.
Yeah, reconnect with our intuition. And this is one of the great ways to do that. yes, this. And also I've heard from people like seeing animals like a hummingbird or a crow or another sign from your angels or guides, the universe, whoever it may be. Yes. So
Absolutely. And I had a spiritual coach who helped me understand that part, because I saw one day, I live on Long Island in New York,
mhm.
and two American bald eagles swooped down and flew over my head one after the other. I didn't even know we had American eagles here on Long Island. She said, well, Susan, that's a message. And I said, oh, really? So then I researched it and I realized, oh my gosh, yes, what a beautiful message too, right?
Yeah.
Take the higher perspective, the big picture perspective, take a look. And at the time I was looking to transition. And so by heeding that call and that guidance, I was able to see the bigger picture and say, yes, I can see where my next step is. So yes, we get signs all the time in different ways. Some people got signs from like their loved ones who have parted. A friend of mine sees butterflies all the time and knows that's her father who passed, right? I get angel feathers everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm.
I once
Yep.
opened my car door, sat down in my car, and the passenger seat was a feather.
Inside. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's great.
Yes. So they let us know that they're there, and sometimes they have specific messages. So if your listeners, if they're seeing the same number over and over and over again, it's because there is a message beneath the numbers that they're trying to convey to them. And
And
it's
then
always positive and uplifting. I like to say that.
yes. And then if you're seeing those numbers, that is your signal to once again, let's check in with the intuition. Let's ask for the meaning of this. Let's figure out what it is.
Absolutely. And it's amazing because, I call angels like the best life coaches ever. Always, to help us take pause, to be mindful in the moment where we are, how we're thinking about something. Like, even if if we're in a space where we see a number, we don't have the minute, we can't just stop, drop, and meditate, right?
Yeah, right. In the middle of the grocery store. Exactly.
Right? You know, just taking a moment of pause and saying, what did I just think right now? Was that something that's going to move me forward in my life, or are the angels alerting me to something that I can probably be shifting?
Mm,
Right?
yeah, that's a
Mm-hmm.
really good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you suggest for people that don't see numbers? Because I feel like we're coming online spiritually with seeing the
Yes.
numbers everywhere. That's just like, like, okay, we're turning the volume up. Numbers is kind of the first thing. And then maybe animals, that sort of, all in that category. But if somebody isn't seeing numbers, are there some suggestions that you could, so that it starts to come into their consciousness?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm going to guess whoever's listening to you is probably already on some awakening path.
Yep. I would hope so.
Right.
Yes.
So my thought is, if they're on that path, maybe setting the intention to notice more, because I know that sometimes people, I will tell them, I'm seeing numbers. I saw this and this is what it meant. And they're like, I don't see numbers. And then a week later, they will call me and say, oh my God, I saw this number, and this number. Right. So sometimes it's that we're not noticing.
Yes.
Or two, we can just ask. We can go into meditation or prayer and ask our guides to send us information or messages in that way. Right.
Right.
I initially asked the angels to send me feathers. I said, I love feathers. Send me feathers. Show me when you're near. And so I find them in the oddest places because I asked for it.
Because you ask for it. Yes.
Yes. Yes, they will respond. So, if you want to get the numbers and you're not noticing them currently, go into meditation or prayer and ask that they show you through messages through the numbers.
Yes. And I have a similar thing because I find money. I walk a lot and I live in a downtown area. And sometimes it's like 3 or 4 cents, sometimes it's $20. It doesn't matter. The money is a sign to me that I'm in the abundance flow. Just like, yeah, you're there, Renee. It's just affirmation or reaffirmation confirmation that I'm in the flow. Now, if I don't find money on a walk, because I do almost every time, it's also a sign to me that, hey, perhaps you're not as much in the flow as you think you are in the flow right now, and maybe go back to the mat, do some meditation, reconnect. So
that's incredible.
Isn't
I
that
love
cool?
that.
I know.
Abundology, she gets money. I love it. Yes. And another thing is to just also recognize that a lot of times how we receive signs is unique to us, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, figuring if we're noticing something like another woman I know, she kept seeing cardinals everywhere. She would see cardinals, and I'm like, well, that's a sign they're communicating with you, right? And whether it's loved ones who are communicating that way, or your guides who are saying, hey, I'm here.
Right.
If you start to notice something that maybe other people aren't noticing as much as you are, that could be definitely a sign.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that I have found is that people in groups tend to see similar numbers. Like it's interesting because I have a group of girlfriends that we meet like once a month and do a little coffee on Zoom, and we will see, and they're odd numbers, like a 789, and somebody else will see 789. So it's a collective message for the group, which I have found fascinating. Although
makes sense.
And although we all have our slightly different interpretations, like we're talking about, there is an overall bigger connection. It's fascinating.
That is fascinating. Yeah. And the funny thing is, when I started seeing the 1111, I had a client who came in to my office, and she walked in, and the first thing she said was, I keep seeing 1111s. And I was just, it was random. I would hear, other clients come in and they speak with my front desk person, and they'd be like, I keep seeing 1111s. And so it was this weird thing, like we were all coming together, even though we didn't know it, we all had this thing in common, right?
Yeah.
It's very fascinating. It's fascinating.
Well, also when we were communicating about doing the podcast, I know that you mentioned I'm emailing you back at 11:11. Just
I was typing, all of a sudden my eyes darted over to the clock and I saw it was 11:11. I said, no way.
Oh, I love it.
So I take it as this is the start of a new great relationship, Renee.
I think so too. Well, Susan, you are just delightful. Thank you so much for being on here and giving us kind of a heads up of what to expect. I do love what you're saying, though, about that individual interpretation of the numbers.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key, right? And so you can start off with your Google search and what does 777 mean, if that's what you're seeing, and take that. But if it's not resonating with you, keep digging. Go look at what does 7 mean, and then I'll collectively look at different definitions and see tap into your intuition. That's the key.
Tap into your intuition. I love it. So, well, you can learn more about Susan on her website, which is susaneckertma.com. And she also has a super cool quiz on there, which is to figure out where you are in your personal and professional growth journey. So I really liked it. I thought it was a great idea, and kind of pinpoints where you would best be suited to do growth next, I should say, in your journey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. And the whole system, a lot of my work, I use the metaphor of the lotus flower, because one of my guides is also Kuan Yin, who is the female bodhisattva, all about compassion. But the lotus has so many, it's a beautiful metaphor for life and for us. And so the quiz helps you find out if you're at the seed, bud, or blossom stage, or rebirth, which lotus blossoms do.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
that's so fun.
Definitely, for your listeners to definitely take the quiz. It's free.
It's free. Yeah. And so I'll put a link to both Susan's website and the quiz in the show notes for the podcast. And thank you so much. And we would love to have you come back when you get your card deck ready and stuff.
Yes,
So yay.
it's going into printing this month. So for the demo, so I can make sure everything looks good, and then it'll be soon. So thank you so much, Renee. And
thank you.
I invite you to text me when you see the numbers, so I can give you the little pulls, what they come back with.
I will do that. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.